Hey y'all, I just wanted to let you know that we have a Patreon channel. That's right. If you did not know, we are on Patreon. Our Patreon is $8.99 a month where you can come and watch all of our visual elements to our podcast show. So all you have to do is click the link in our description box and it will take you right there. It's only $8.99 a month. Make sure you go and subscribe. Bye. Welcome back to another episode of the Hella Chisme Podcast. I'm still here. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be back. Welcome back to another episode of the Hella Chisme Podcast. My name is Dana, and I'm your host. Um, OMG. It has been some time. And I'm sure you all are asking yourselves, where you been? And I'm asking myself that same question. First things first, I'm using a completely different setup. So I actually have this camera right in front of me. I've been having some technology issues for whatever reason after vacation, right when I was planning to come back and start recording again. Everything decided to turn its back on me. Yep, that's right. Which is usually how things happens, right? So I got back from vacation. I was preparing to get everything organized, set up, and then I got home and my data cord no longer wanted to send my data to my display. And I may be speaking another language to anybody who's listening to this, but essentially my Mac Mini would not display on my computer display. And so that happened. Then on top of that, I sat down to record and my display has a webcam already in it. So then I realized I can't no longer use my webcam because of that cord is no longer working. And now I'm using this camera, which is a good thing. I'm not mad about it because actually I've been looking for a reason to use this camera and I hadn't had one in a while because when I did try to use it for the first time, it didn't work. Or it not that it didn't work. It was that the videos I could not figure out how to convert them. So all that to say, there's a camera sitting right in front of me, so that's where I'm connecting with you right here. But if you see me looking over, it's because I'm trying to make sure I'm looking good in the camera. And that's for those who are watching the video. But those who are listening, that's the backstory. That's what's been going on. But anyway, welcome back. I'm so excited to be back. Lots to talk about today. It's going to be a full on life update story on what I've been doing, what's going on. We'll talk a little about what's to come. But, you know, it's me. It's just me now. I'm very excited and scared at the same time, but I'm excited to have gotten back to the place to be able to continue to record the show and to move forward. I have a lot of ideas, a lot of plans, a lot of things that I want to do. Um, so I'm excited to see where this goes. First things first, the show will no longer come out weekly. Will come out twice a month. And that's just a better schedule. And also will give me time to work on other projects that I want to work on and that I am working on, um, to give me the time to do that, to be able to live my life. I have a job, so that too. Finishing up some things with school and just to not feel like I'm burnt out. Um, which leads me into my next portion of this, which is talking about the time away that I had. Um, I was able to take some time for myself and to do some deep dive into being burnt out, being tired, uh, knowing that I have been overworked, knowing that I have been in school, working on this show, working on other things that I knew I wanted to do, but it just was a lot. And I knew that in order for me to be able to come back and to be able to continue the show, I needed to take that time away. So it was very important that I did that. Um, so I was resting. I was decompressing. I continue to go to therapy as I have been doing. I think I talked a little bit about it when, even through the episodes I was doing with Stephanie, I talked about going to therapy, and my therapist has been getting me together, talking about like vulnerability, talking about like all the number of things that I love to put on my plate, talking about how I need to make plans for myself. I even went and did a appointment with my astrologist, who essentially does a lot of readings based on my birth chart, uh, and like my house, which is all of the signs and the, your moon in Cancer or Virgo, etc. That's the easiest way for me to explain it to you if you don't know what that is. Um, and what it all boils down to is that I'm in a place to where I can build all the things that I want to do in the way that I want them. I just have to take the time to dream about it, think about it, and map it out, and to lay it all out so that it can come into fruition in the way that I want it to do it. And so that's what I've been doing. Um, and understanding and knowing that I was burnt out, I really wanted to take the time to get a lot of rest. And I wanted to stay quiet. Although I was on social media, I wasn't really on social media, which is why I wasn't posting a lot on the Hella Chisme account. You would see things come up and post here and there, but it was really important to me to make sure that I took the time and was able to decompress and rest and to move forward as best as I could. So I did that. I took a breath. I didn't schedule any recordings. I didn't even barely pay attention to numbers from the show. Um, Nothing. I needed to really just put my hands up and say, we're gonna let this do what it do. And I did that. So now that we are back and I am able to know exactly what I want to do, know what we're doing, know where it's going, which is why part of the decision to move the show to 2 times a month rather than weekly, because I know there's other things that I want to do. And I know that I want to take the Hella Chisme branding into something else completely different, or not different, but bigger than what it is. And planning on doing that meant that I needed to take the time to think and dream and figure it out. And that's what I've done. And I'm excited to see where everything ends up and how everything continues to unfold. Um, and then just thinking about, not having any deadlines, not having to do much of anything. That was just great. And then the semester had ended, so I didn't have to do any schoolwork. And then I went on a great trip, which we're also going to talk about as well. So I just had some good time away. And hopefully you can see it. I look refreshed. I'm not as tired as I was. I'm not exhausted. We still drinking our water. So things have been fantastic. But moving on. So just thinking about um, vulnerability and talking about therapy, you know, I'm interested to just know how many of y'all didn't think this show was coming back? Me neither, girl. Because I really just I had to sit with myself and really come to terms with I suffer from imposter syndrome. I suffer from the fear of doing things alone. And one thing I did not want to do was to do this show by myself, which is why it was so easy for me when I started the show. It was easy to do it with my friend because I had somebody else to do it with me. And for many, many years, I have wanted to do podcasting. And the only reason that stopped me is because I didn't want to do it by myself. But the reality I had to come to when taking the time away was that I needed to be vulnerable and let people see me for me and not try and hide behind another person doing the show with me. So those were the conversations I had to have with myself. And those were some of the things I had to come to terms with. And now that we're here, I also have to recognize the power now that I have to do whatever I want with this show and move it in the direction, whatever direction I want it to go in. And that's kind of exciting to me because it's so hard having to try and move something with somebody else, especially if they may not have the same vision that you have. And not to say that, anything on my past co-hosts, but the reality is we both have two different lives that we're leading, and we both had two different directions we wanted to go in. And I think it's going to be much easier to move this along and to move this where I want it to go because it's just me on the show. And I had to come to terms with that. And I also had to just get clear that I was genuinely scared to just do this shit by myself. And I think going to therapy and having different conversations that I had helped me come to terms with that. Because if you know anything about Leos, being vulnerable and showing the side to where we may be fearful of something is not necessarily something that we're strong at doing, because to us it's like showing a sign of weakness. And I'm not the one to be running around here trying to be, looking like somebody who's weak. So after going to therapy and now having this conversation or having these conversations, I was able to just realize vulnerability is not about weakness, right? It's about letting people see you for who you are. And that is what I'm leaning into. And I also feel like that's the honest part of who I am. Because as much as I like to talk about communication and how much I love communication and how honest I am about things, I had to be honest here first and with myself in order to be able to move things forward. Um, and so now I don't feel no type of way about it. And I'm happy about that. And I love that for me. The other thing was finishing school. Oh, if you know anything about me and school and how I've talked about school, you know that school has never been a thing that I've loved or just like thoroughly enjoyed. But the last couple of years that I have been in school, I have been taking the time to enjoy it and trying to create what path I'm going down. The reason I decided to start studying communications because I did want to start taking podcasting, writing, and creating more seriously. And then the reason that I had did human resource management was because I wanted to have a career path in the professional world too. So I've done both of those, right? But I also had to come to terms with that right now, where we are in the world, I don't think a bachelor's degree is going to be happening right now. But I will walk away with this AA and maybe go do another certification program at one of my Ivy League favorites because everybody's doing certification programs now, and my job can just pay for it. I don't want to take out any school loans to try and pay for it, especially with how Donald Trump wants us to finish paying for these school loans. Or I'm not interested. And I had to come to terms with that too. I do want my degrees, my certifications, they all matter and I do want them. But I think where the job market and the world is going when it comes to professional workplaces, everywhere is not making you have a degree in order to get the job that you want today. Um, I know that even in the place that I work, that's not all that you need to have in order to be qualified for the job anymore. And that's great, right? I still have quite a few professional certifications. I have lots of experience, but, you know, I'm not in this space to go sit in class for days and days at a time where I am going to be spending a ton of money on an education. And that's kind of where I'm ending up at right now. And that's mostly because of the climate we're in right now. So, and that might change. We'll see. But right now, that's where we at. Um, so, I think one of the other things, just thinking about when we're being vulnerable, some of the things that we always talk about on this show is honesty, vulnerability, and doing things for you. And some of these things are important for you and for your mental health. And I had to really do a deep dive into all of that. And that's some of the places that I end up. I have always wanted to go to like Cornell, Morehouse, Yale, and all of them have programs that I can go do cert programs with right now. They all have global learning where you can do it all online, and it's just like a couple of $1,000s. And I'm like, if I can do that, match that with my little associate's degree and my HRBP certification, HR management, and get one more, what else do I need? And I say, people should do more. What's the word? Word I'm thinking of is unconventional learning, creating unconventional learning paths rather than what we're doing now today. What's more affordable for you? What, how can you get directly to what it is that you want to learn rather than spending a bunch of money on schools? When we're in a different climate, maybe that'll make more sense for you. But as of right now, it's not looking like that's the thing to do. Um, so wrapping up the conversation about vulnerability, I'll just say this. I knew that if I wanted to keep moving this forward, then I needed to get clear on what we're doing, where we're going, and how to continue to target the audience that I want to target. And I think with what I have planned for the show, for the Hella Chisme brand, I think I will be able to do exactly what it is that I want to do. So, with all of that, again, I'm happy to be back. Thank you for listening and supporting the show. And thank you for coming back to see what I had to say. Like I said, I have some things planned. Um, it's going to be a fun ride moving forward. So hopefully, the couple of people that listen and watch, y'all stick around and we going to have a good time. I'm going to take a small break and then we'll be right back. And I'm back. All right. So today's episode is going to be, like I said, a little life update. So since we last talked, um, I've been chilling basically, but the world has clearly still been going. Beyonce done ended her tour. She was out there on horses in that Cadillac converter or that red Cadillac. Damn near gave out on her when she was on her tour in Houston. Um, the airplane's still acting crazy. It's all kind of shit going on. But summertime is still in full effect. The girlies are still outside. I celebrated my 35th birthday. And things have just been going on. Oh, and then the Diddy trial wrapped up while we were on break. And we covered some stuff on that. What else? I mean, Donald Trump is still acting a fool. Politics are still a mess. Um, things are just happening. But, to say the least, I just because we were gone did not mean that I wasn't paying attention on the things in the world. But one thing that I do want to talk about that I really, really, really enjoyed is me and my husband took ourselves to Fiji. And a lot of people asked us how we decided on going to Fiji. And really what it was we were looking at our, so we have a timeshare, which I think I've shared before. And uh, 3 years ago, when we had our honeymoon, or 4 years ago when we had our honeymoon, we had looked through the different locations that we can go to. And when we went on our honeymoon, we went to Ziawatanejo. And during that time, we also had saw that we have property in Fiji. So now, fast forward to 4 years later, we said that, okay, our big summer trip this year would be Fiji since I had just celebrated my 1 year anniversary at my job. And, the year before that, I was not working and summer was in a deep depression. And if you have been listening to the show, you know I shared what what of a dark space I was in at the time. But now, clearly not in that, and we celebrate. And I'm turning 35 this year, so we said, okay, let's go try somewhere different. Let's go to Fiji. So, in doing research on it and finding a place to stay, the different islands, the different things you could do, we did stay at our timeshare, but we also stayed at two other different places. Um, when flying in, Nadi is one of the main islands that you can fly into, as well as there's Suva, which is further down south from Nadi, but it's like a 3 hour drive from there. There's also a bunch of other different islands. And if you also watch Love Island, Love Island is filmed as Fiji, which is on an island that is about an hour and 45 minutes from Nadi. Not the little thumbs up sign, which is an hour and 45 minutes from Nadi, on the backside of an island. I think it's called Mawalu, but you can't even see it because the island's so small on the map. But we did get to go around to different islands. And one of the persons who gave us a cruise on the trip told us where it was. But anyway, um, Fiji is located 5 hours from Hawaii, which where we're from, which is, living in California, is 5 hours from us. So the flight from LAX or SFO is 10 hours. And there's only four different locations that do direct flights to Fiji. So it's Honolulu, it's LAX, SFO, Dallas. Wait, LAX, SFO, Dallas, Honolulu. So only those locations do direct flights to Fiji. So we had to drive down to LAX, and which is only, I think it only took us an hour and 30 minutes from San Diego to LAX. And then we would border fly there to SFO. Now, we flew Fiji Airways, and Fiji Airways is this gorgeous international airline. I mean, the plane was beautiful. The plane coming back was better than the plane going. Um, but it was nice, and we'll get into that. But since Fiji Airways is partnered with a bunch of other international airlines like American Airline, British Airways, and then I think it's one more. From LAX to SFO, we had to fly American so that we can catch our connecting flight from SFO to Nadi. So, if you know anything about American Airlines, although that is one of my favorites, they be on some bullshit. So we get to LAX and we check in. Immediately when we check in, we're checking in our bags, getting everything situated. situated, going up to the American airline desk, and we're trying to check in our bags. So I give the lady my suitcase. She sets it on the conveyor belt, and she tells my husband that his bag is overweight. I said, no, it's not, because we've already prepaid for baggage through Fiji Airways. And not only have we paid for baggage, we can have our bags weigh up to 60 pounds through Fiji Airways. And she was like, oh, okay, well, you guys have to go to the specialty desk. Great. So went over to the other desk, explained to her what was going on, and she tried to give me the whole thing. I said, what I'm gonna need you to do is look up what Fiji Airways baggage is, because clearly y'all are not in alignment on what Fiji Airways does, and it's clearly different from what y'all do on American Airlines, which I already know because I fly domestically on American Airlines all the time, and your bag can be more than 50 pounds, which fine, understood. But my thing was, I've already paid for it. I'm not giving you an additional $100. And if y'all not communicating, that's not my problem. So we were able to get that figured out, get that fixed. We go to the LAX airport. We sat there for about 2 hours because we have to catch another shuttle from one part of the gates to another part of the gate, which I never knew because I've had never actually been to LAX. I've flown into Anaheim, and then other parts of family has flown into Ontario, so I've never had to go there. So we fly out of LAX about 9 ish, and then we're sitting on the LAX tarmac, and I knew when they had went on this whole roundabout way to get to where we were supposed to be taking off at, that something was going on. So they come on the intercom and they say, SFO has some congestion in the airway. So are actually been delayed, and we won't be taking off until about 9:15. Mind you, our flight from SFO to Nandi is supposed to be boarding an hour from then. And it already takes about an hour or so to get from LAX to San Francisco, not to mention until they let us off the plane, we get to the gate, etc. So we're delayed. So we finally take off. We get to SFO. We have 10 minutes to get from one side of the airport to the next side of the airport. So me and Paris are footing it across the airport. And I mean, thankfully it wasn't busy because it was so late at night. But I mean, when I tell you my calves were so swole by the time we got to the gate, I was just tired and out of breath at that point. But thankfully we made it. So we got to the gate and we checked in. They took all of our information. And we told them we have two bags that are coming off of a flight that are coming off of the flight that was delayed from LAX. And they were like, okay. And then there was another guy that was there letting them know actually there's 11 other people who have bags and who are coming off that flight that are delayed as well, and we need to make sure that it's on the flight. So I hear homegirl on the walkie, and she's like, we're about to close the doors. And the girl's like, no, not yet. You have two other people. And turns out they were waiting for us to get there, which was very nice. Um, so we get on the plane, we get settled in. The airplane is huge. It's probably the biggest airplane I've ever been on in my life. I mean, the engines are probably the size of a studio apartment. Which I was just very, was just very taken aback and just thought how cool it was because I had never flown that far internationally and have never been on such a large airplane like that. So it was pretty dope. So we get checked in. We are sitting pretty much in the front. We were in economy plus, so we had good seats. We had good leg space. The plane is pretty much full. There's families all flying to go see probably other families. We learned that there's families that were celebrating their birthdays. Um, it was a full flight. The first couple of hours of the flight, they are serving you dinner because what now I know is by the time we were leaving San Francisco, it starts to be dinner time in Nadu. So we were leaving here about 10 o'clock, almost 11 o'clock. So that is like 4:33 o'clock Nadu time, but the next day. So you kind of lose a whole day when you travel to Fiji. So we were up in the air at this point. We're flying. Um, we have some food. I'm in and out of sleep. Paris is in and out of sleep. And we make it to Nandi about 5:20 a.m. the next day. We get there, we get all checked in. It's super busy. We learn that a lot of the American flights come in at 5 a.m. in the morning. It's probably easier. And so the airport is pretty much booming, starting from 5 a.m. till late at night. Um, we get there, we sit down because we're waiting for our luggage, only to realize our luggage is never to arrive. So I asked the lady, I said, hey, we're looking for these two luggages. And she's like, oh, all of the luggages from SFO are on the floor. And I said, well, not all of them, because I don't see mine and I don't see my husband's. And I showed her the two slips, and she was like, okay, well, if you've lost them, then you have to go do this survey, and points us in the direction to go do the survey and where we can go do it at. So we do all of that. So we have to essentially file a baggage claim, and we have to put in all the information, let them know where they want us to send, where they want them to send it, and all of that. So after that, we're like, it's time to go. It's 5 a.m. At this point, we've been traveling for a whole day. I'm tired. I'm over it. I'm ready to get out of this airport. So we leave the airport. I had previously booked some transportation. So they were there to pick us up and they took us to the hotel. And the first hotel we stayed at was the Doubletree. The Doubletree is on the Sonali Island, and it was beautiful. Um, we had to take a small commuter boat from one side of the island to the next side to actually get to the entrance of the hotel. And I mean, it connects to the ocean. So it just, you can see all the trees, the sunset, I mean, the sunrise, and it was just gorgeous. I mean, I've had bad experiences on boats, but when we got on that boat, my immediate thought was just like, not about that. It was just about how pretty it was. And we got over. As soon as you get there, people are trying to take your luggage out of your hands because they're like, we got you. We're about to take care of you. And, go ahead and get checked in, and your luggage will be at your door when you get to your door. So we did that. We went there, we got checked in. Breakfast was already started, so we had breakfast. And then from there, we went and checked in our room, and we had pretty much like a bungalow. And they had some standalone little bungalows. Then they had like regular like hotel rooms, and then they had more standalone bungalows. We were in a bungalow that was facing the water, which if you follow me on Instagram, you saw that it was just right on the water. It was beautiful. And we stayed there for the first 2 days, which is the first 2 days that we were fighting to get our luggage back, which to me, my only thing that I guess I'm gonna, after, 10 days of being on vacation and just, a couple of days reflecting on all of it, my thing is just the lack of communication, right? I had submitted that baggage claim, and I felt like I had to do all the work to figure out if our luggage was going to make it back. No one reached out, no one followed up. I was doing all of the work to make sure that our luggage was going to be on the next plane coming back to Nadi to make sure that we would have our shit for the rest of the time that we were on vacation. I mean, back and forth with SFO Airport, back and forth with Fiji Airways, back and forth with American Airlines. It was a shit show. And then at the end, by the time we were checking out of the Doubletree, our luggages were actually sitting at the front desk right when we were getting ready to leave. Which, we were like, if we didn't go up here to say anything, would they have had said anything to us? And I mean, it was annoying. But thankfully, we did end up with our luggage. So from there, after we left Sonali, we went and stayed in Donaru Island, which, I mean, complete night and day from where we were staying to where we now are for the entirety of the rest of our trip. Donaru Island is clearly created for travelers and tourists. I mean, they have built this place up to be where the tourists come and go and stay. It's also close to Nandi town, which has a bunch of restaurants, shopping stores. It has the temple. It's close to pretty much everything, but also has been made into the spot for the tourists to go to. So when we checked into Donaru, which is where we stayed at our timeshare, um, this too was a beautiful resort, but much larger and a lot more people. And we were checking on a Saturday and it was packed. Like it was very, very packed. Um, Overall, that the Donaru Island was good. I think in retrospect, the food wasn't amazing. We had some good food at one restaurant that we went to, but it was kind of hit or miss, unfortunately. Um, when we went to Wailolo, we went and ate at the Sheraton, and they had some really good seafood at the top of the hotel. But everything else was kind of like hit or miss. And I think it's because of all of everything they have to have imported. The fish was great though. Any seafood that we did have was fresh, and you can tell that it was fresh. And it was very, very clean tasting. So, but everything else was kind of like, mm. um, all the beaches. When we did the catamaran tour and went to visit the sandbar, beautiful. We went to when we went on the sandbar, they cooked on the boat. That was probably the best food of the entire trip. And also the first time in the whole trip that I had a little buzz. Because the other thing that I found out while being in Fiji was that they don't have a surplus of tequila. But why would I expect that either, right? It's an island. They do drink a lot of rum. So I wanted tequila, but they only had Jose Cuervo, and I just could not get through drinking a bunch of Jose Cuervo. Um, so hands down, Fiji was one for the week for the books. It was fantastic. Um, if you ever go, I think that staying on the different islands, um, visiting different parts of it is the way to go. I think when we do go back, we if we did go by ourselves, we will stay in different places again. Um, Hands down, I think our favorite spot to stay, I think for me, was the Sonali Island at Doubletree. I just enjoyed it. The Radisson was nice. That was next door to where we stayed at, where our timeshare, because we had to stay an extra day because our flight wasn't actually until Monday night. So it was cool. The Radisson was okay. I just felt like we were begging for service there. And I don't know if it's the American in me that feels like we like better service. Um, but I don't know. I collect points there now. So if there's another Radisson that I stay at, then I'll do that. But the Radisson was okay. Um, where else? I mean, I do think that Fiji is a gem and something that's going to be up and coming over the next couple of years. They're doing a lot of work on it. It's a lot of construction. There's a lot of land for sale. I think the only thing that I would complain about is just how long the travel is to get there. Other than that, Fiji was 10 out of 10. I would highly recommend it. I would definitely suggest if you need a place to go vacation, that is the place that I would recommend you going. Um, it was a good time. Um, and the Fijian people were so nice, very pleasant. Um, they take care of you, and somehow they remember each and every person. I don't know how they do that. Because they knew if we had been there for a while, they knew if we had just checked in. They were very locked in on every single person that they encountered while they were there on their trip. A lot of Australians. So the Australians, they were staring a lot, almost if they had never seen black people before or gay people before. None of them said anything disrespectful or got disrespectful, but it just was like we were on display at a circus. But I'm also not surprised by any of that. Um, but other than that, it was fantastic. So if you're ever planning a trip to Fiji, uh, you know, only suggestions that I would make sure you do your best to find a straight flight. Um, if you can get one, I mean, I guess the red eye is fine. But as long as you don't have to transfer any planes, that's the best way I would say. Um, maybe do some research on restaurants before you go, because we didn't really do any restaurant research. Um, Everything else is cool. I mean, nothing was super expensive at all. Um, Literally, the Fijian dollar is you're paying half the price for everything over there. So I say, if you've been thinking about it, go do it because it was definitely worth it. All right. I'm going to take one final break and then I'll be back to wrap up the show. Hey, y'all. If you like what you heard, make sure you join the conversation. We always say to make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we definitely want you to do that. But also, we would love if you would join in with us. There's a link in the description where you can actually send us messages. You can also make sure to tag us on social media, put up your favorite clips of the show, and then tag us, and we will repost them on our stories. That is the best way to get in communication or community with us, and we would love to see y'all interact with the content. Anyway, thank you for following us and thank you for listening, and we'll see you back for the remainder of the show. Bye. And I'm back. All right, y'all. So that was pretty much my life update. Therapy, getting my life together, finishing the semester, my little Fiji Chisme, and what that was like. Um, I just been chilling, to be honest with you, and also getting organized. So I think that for any of you out there that are struggling, trying to figure out your next moves in life, take the time that you need. Write it down. I'm such a believer in writing things down or creating notes. I have so many notes in my notes app or in my notebook or wherever I can put it, I put it. Um, so yeah, just it's important to take time for yourself. It's important to do what you need to do to get organized. I am a strong believer in making sure you get what you need when you need to get it. Um, Thank you all for coming back. And for those of you who that are listening and who are watching, um, I'll be making just some changes again on where you can find and watch the show or these episodes. Um, just make it easier, make it more easily accessible into so it's not that much work for me and my team that I'm working with. um yeah. So thank you for coming back. Thank you for listening. And I will see you back on the next episode. Don't miss it.